Hi, I'm Mac McCarthy, and I help people with their breakups. And today we have another live stream with Expanded Minds podcast. Not another one, the first one. Ezekiel, if I said that
Hello, hello.
correctly,
Ezekiel, yeah.
right? Yeah. All right.
Ezekiel in Spanish.
Ezekiel in Spanish. Okay, good.
Ezekiel.
We're going to talk about how to meditate better post breakup. This is something I don't have a ton of experience with. I believe in meditation like most people out there. It's one of those things, meditation to me is like, yeah, I know I got to do it, but it's so hard. It's so hard to start, or you've tried before and you feel like it's not working based on what you think it's supposed to do. So Ezekiel actually took up meditation post breakup or an issue, situationship kind of a thing. So he actually did that, which I think was actually, to me, in my opinion, more difficult when your mind's on someone else. It's hard to concentrate at that time, but I guess meditation, at some point you got to try some different things. So we're going to get into that today. Does it work? Does it help? Alternative meditations versus flow, like a flow state. I like to talk about that. And what's a good method? And so, would you like to introduce yourself and what you do on your expanded? Okay, we've been talking for hours already, so go ahead.
Well, I'm Ezekiel. I have a very deep interest in spiritual stuff. I've had a lot of spiritual experiences that have made me question reality and the nature of it. So I've been blessed to have these kind of experiences. I kind of show them as something that's normal to me, and it's pretty cool stuff. Uh, I don't really think a lot of people have these kind of experiences, so I've always I like to share them. I like to open people's minds. And so it's kind of like the goal of my podcast is to help people experience these kind of things and help them, know that there's things out there that is beyond your comprehension, and just a reminder to keep an open mind. So it's kind of what I do. Have different kind of guests on. Could be from whatever kind of, you know, I have had guests on that are into cryptids. Those kind of,
What is it?
mythical creatures, cryptids, like Bigfoot, Sasquatch, aliens. I've had people that are.
There's an umbrella term for Sasquatch.
Oh yeah, cryptids is like
I didn't
includes a
even know
bunch of
that.
monsters like Dogman and Bigfoot, all these kind of like.
So the person that you had on says that that's absolutely true, that they're all out there.
Yeah, he actually investigates stuff. His name's Brian, paranormal paranormal investigator. So he goes out into the woods, records everything. He has some evidence of ghosts and stuff as well. On one of the episodes we did, he showed like a shadow figure caught on video. But I have people like that on, or like people that are meditators, or people that intuitive eating. I had one on recently, psychology, all kind of stuff. So
What's something that you think would be useful that you've learned through your guests for people going through a breakup that could be applied?
Stillness is key. Trusting your intuition. A lot of people I've had on are very intuitive, and so knowing and trusting your gut feeling when it comes to these breakups is very important, because it's like we tend to know things, but our judgment is clouded because of our own rationalizations over certain things. And so always to trust yourself and always connect to that deeper knowing. So I would say that.
All right, so let's unpeel that really quick, the stillness part, right? So like stillness, because I can
Yes.
see people going, how am I going to be still when all I can do is think about them, or I want to contact them, right? So I'm with you. It's like one of those things. Yeah, it's easy for you to say right now, man.
Yeah.
So stillness, when you say stillness, can you maybe elaborate on how to get to that point of stillness?
Of course. There's this quote that I like by the Orthodox or Desert Fathers, they call them, these monks. And it's basically goes like this: sit in your cell and it'll teach you everything. And so what it means is basically you just learn to sit there, and then you'll allow yourself to be taught by just sitting still. In order to acquire stillness, it requires a certain level of discipline and courage to just sit there. Whatever your cell may be, it may be as your car where you sit there privately, it may be in your bathroom. But the goal is just to sit there and allow whatever to come up teach you whatever you need to know about yourself. So it becomes like a discovery lesson where the thoughts and the feelings and maybe the stuff that you're going through in your breakup are actually teaching you something, and you learn not to react based off of your feelings and your emotions that are happening in that moment, because it may be high, but if you set a certain time just to sit there and allow those things to come up, and you develop courage and you develop emotional strength and you develop the ability to kind of go through these things. So sitting in your cell really is just wherever you're at, it could be in your chair, whatever, just learn to sit there and not move, and have the courage to really face yourself and face whatever's inside of you. So I mean, that's
Eyes closed.
I would start off closed, and once you start to really feel the energy inside of you, because once you sit, the quote is sit in your cell, and it'll teach you everything. Once you really sit in yourself, you start to gather into yourself. You can say chi or energy, and once you really start to feel that energy inside of you, that then you could start to like maybe do eyes open, because then you start to see you get familiar and in touch with the energies all around you. But yeah, first I would start off with eyes closed because it allows you to be more sensitive a little bit more, and you're not really distracted. And then once you start to get more in touch with yourself, then eyes open.
What was your first experience with meditation? So if I just to elaborate a little bit on that, meaning like the first time you decided like I'm going to try to meditate, what was your first experience?
Pretty peaceful. I remember I was on my top bunk bed like I was like 14. I was just trying
Okay.
it out. I was just trying it out just to try it out. Again, like, but I came from like more like a strict legalistic church culture. So then when I did a
Mhm.
meditation, I kind of felt guilty about it. I was like, I'll just try it once, but it's not really of God. It's kind of like the way you think. It's not really of God and stuff. And so I did it. I felt pretty peaceful. I was like struggling with a lot of like thoughts I was going through at the time. And as soon as I did it, I felt everything just settled down. I didn't really have the thoughts that I was struggling with just went away. And I was like, oh, this is nice. And
Did
then
you sit with your legs crossed?
now I was, I was,
I'm
that's a
just
tip.
curious.
Yeah,
Isn't it?
yeah.
It's
Yeah,
so
people
assumed, right? And I actually,
so
when I
assumed,
go
yeah.
to the beach and sit, I'm like
It's
playing the
comfort.
role.
Yeah.
It's actually not comfortable for me. I have very tight hips. I have a very tight hamstring, so it's not comfortable for me. But I pack the sand underneath my legs. But I've heard because you like transpersonal psychology. I don't know if you ever heard of Charles Tart, and he's like, you don't need to have your legs crossed. Like that's just
Yeah.
a thing. So when you were on your bunk bed, were you
I was lying down, just laying down. Yeah, I was
just laying
doing this.
down? I would say so. You're
But
just laying down, present.
yeah, I like standing recent like more recently I've been just standing more, developing my leg muscles as well as just doing it more in a standing position. I mean, I now I'm getting a little bit more sensitive to where I try to get in a position to where it doesn't block my breathing. So sometimes when I lay down, just depending on the mattress too, like it'll sometimes I don't know, I just feel like I can't really breathe as deeper or breathe as deep as I'd want to. So I've been
So,
kind of standing more or like sitting. Yeah.
so I mean, at 14, your first try, you got there.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, often people,
Yeah.
well, whether in the comments now or watch this later on, like you've tried to meditate. Because I remember when I was teaching, sometimes to calm down a class, I would tell them like everyone close your eyes. I did this with students. It's kind of interesting because like I worked at a variety of schools, and there were sometimes kids that were ornery in classes that were like that. And the minute they all did it, and you could look at them and you would be like, close your eyes, relax, just relax, da, da, da. And in Thai it means samadhi. So it's like, so they're doing it, and there'd be one kid like, and they keep opening their eye. They were struggling to just do that and
Mm,
relax. Most of the class would relax as a group, like they would vibe into it,
yeah.
right? But there would be a few in the group that just couldn't do it, that were just restricting towards it. I'm
Uh-huh.
just wondering, is there anything that you would suggest based on the fact that you were a quote unquote a natural at 14? Because you just said like your first experience,
Yeah.
like it
I don't really think
worked.
about yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? Where there's plenty of people like I've tried to meditate, never works.
Yeah.
What would you
It, wa-
tell them?
it was a guided meditation actually. So I was
Like on
listening to a certain
YouTube?
person. So yeah, the essence of their teaching really was doing something in me. I guess I was more open to it. So is To answer your question, I would say get in touch with a teaching that really has a deep, strong essence to it. Like whatever you're gravitated towards, kind of sense what it really is, because it'll start to work on you automatically. Because the wisdom of these saints or the meditation that I practiced was kind of passed down from more of like a Eastern, uh, what is it, Christian, Eastern Christian hermit, like or
And that was the
uh,
one that you followed when you were 14?
I didn't follow it till I was like I didn't take it serious till I was like 19, but I just peered at it just for a second and then came back to when I was 19 when I was really like the thoughts were coming back. I was like, oh, like I remember the essence of this teaching. So you really have to like follow somebody that knows what they're talking about, but also like the wisdom behind the teaching has to really, you know, start to work on you. So
So you did it with a guided meditation, like
yes,
online. What was the channel, if you remember?
his name was Brother Dominic. So
Brother Dominic. All right,
yeah,
I'll just put that in there. Someone wants to look that up.
yeah, his name's Brother Dominic, and um, I remember emailing him too about all of his stuff and what he learned from, you know, because he went to travel to different places to learn this kind of stuff as well. Like that's where he got some of the teaching from, and he put it in a book called Blueprints to Union. So he'd talk about different concepts, such as like, for example, like you would imagine one concept that he would try to instill or like talk about is you can take a thought of like an umbrella, for example, take a
Okay.
thought of a rock, take a thought of a backpack, and then notice how like they come up and then they go, but there's a thing behind that thing that's watching them come and go. So you kind of don't really place your emphasis on the external things, the thoughts and things like that, but you kind of focus and start to rest in the thing that's watching those things come up and come down, which is your thoughts, your feelings, and the
What's the thing
content,
that's watching them?
your awareness, your sentience. Because
What's sensuous? What does that mean?
sentience is just your ability to be aware.
Okay.
It's such a simple thing that people like because our attention tends to be directed into various amount of things. Like if we're going through something very tough, like our attention's going there, it's focusing on there. If you're out in public, your attention is mainly going into a lot of things externally. But then once you start to pull your attention back, a lot of like mystical traditions talk about pulling away from the world or pulling detachment and things like that. Once you start to take your attention and start to take control of it and move it to that ability to be aware, then things start to open up. It's very simple, but you kind of have to locate where your attention is going and start to learn to gain control of it, and then move it back to where it needs to go. And that takes discipline. It takes truth. You have to be honest at where you're putting your attention at, and then try to gather yourself back into yourself. Come back to yourself, because usually, like in a breakup, for example, breakup setting, your attention's so enwrapped and encased in this person that you lost it. You lost it inside the person, and so you want to pull it back so that you have a sense of self and identity again. So I mean that's
How would you? All right. So if you were dealing with someone in a breakup,
well,
right? This is a young meditation coach in the making here, right? I think you'd be good at it, man. I, because there's people that want some kind of a guide towards it. So like if you had someone that was a breakup, maybe a friend, maybe it was someone that contacts you through your podcast, and they're being obsessive about their like full on, right? Like what do I do to get them back? Like come on, come on. And you were like, all right, would you be like close your eyes, and would you guide them through a meditation to calm them through that?
yeah, pretty simple. Yeah.
How
So
confident was that? You just went, yeah. You didn't even hesitate. You were like, yeah, no, I can do that. So if you were going to do that, would you just trust what was going to come to mind, or would you follow kind of a similar protocol, if you will, that you do now for yourself, or would you do something different based on them as an individual?
I'd follow some of the principles that I learned from Brother Dominic, that channel right there. I'd follow some of those principles, but I kind of just go intuitively with it as well. Like I'm not too like, oh, this has to be his way, or you know, it's not gonna work. I just basically just go off of just intuitive. So I'd start with sitting them down, and then I just be like, okay, first bring your attention to your sense of seeing. Uh, because you have to gather yourself back into your sense of sight. Because usually when you're obsessed, for example, your thoughts are like out here somewhere, but it's actually like out here because we tend to project our thoughts outwards or inwards or towards somebody. Or so when we take our attention back to the sense of sight, we allow it to rest there. You kind of start to learn how things are kind of magnetic, like the way that when you start to bring energy back to yourself, it's like a push and pull. Like the universe works that way. We're push and pull. Like you pull yourself back in, and then you learn how to kind of work these things. So I mean, you pull yourself back into your sense of sight, and then you start to be aware of the content in it. You allow things to come up. You start to develop an okayness with whatever comes up. You go to your sense of hearing, and then you allow whatever is in your sense of hearing to come up. You just allow things to unravel because a lot of people are not okay with what comes up in their mind, and they think it's something that they have to attack or fight. But to be real with yourself, you really have to like allow things to come up and see it for what it is, and that sense
Accept
of
it, right?
accept
Accept
it,
it.
yeah, accept it, and also develop awareness because I think that a lot of people don't have awareness in general. Like their awareness is little to none because it's mostly outside or in their thoughts or in their feelings, and it's not in the exact center where it should be. It's not placed in the right place, if you will. If that makes sense.
It does. All right. So when you say awareness, if we're gonna peel that back, I'm one of those like I like
Yes.
to get a little deeper on the define that. So if someone's going back to the breakup idea, if you will, obsessed over an ex or a crush or whatever, and you're saying like get back to your self awareness, what would be an example of how they can do that while they're in the meditative state?
So when you start to unpeel the layers of your senses, because you get to feel the essence of your senses. So your sight, your hearing, and then once you start to feel your hearing, your sight, and then you start to feel your body, start to feel your feet, and then you get in touch with that invisible part of yourself that's moving around. And you could even do it right now, where you bring your attention to your feet, to your legs, to your body, and that subtle feeling of lightness is really that attentive part of you. And then once you kind of feel that subtle feeling of lightness that is going around, and it's very lucid, it can move around, subtle like that, and you could just feel it go to your sense of sight, and you're familiar with that feeling. Then you just focus on that feeling, and then you just allow it to deepen and get more rich. And that's how you develop awareness around yourself and around certain things. It's just you just allow it to sit there and just soak it in. So that's kind of
So
that.
the awareness of being in your body.
But in your body as well as, I mean, it's not just in your body; it's everywhere. If that it's like it's in your body, but expands like outwards to everywhere. So
So,
it's a feeling
so
of
it's,
inclusiveness that you feel when you stabilize in your awareness. Because right now, like you could take your awareness. If I said be aware of a certain city, like you could take your thought there. If I say like bring your awareness, if you could feel it come from your hand and then start to slowly push out, like you start to feel it go, you know, or you can start to feel it go somewhere else, or like you can kind of start to feel like how it's everywhere. It's not just located in your body, but it's the best place to bring, or best place to rest yourself in, because that's where your true self is, everywhere all at once. Yeah.
so if someone's playing with this now or trying to meditate, trying to get deep, how do they release that idea of trying so hard? It seems like you've done that without trying, if that makes sense. Because I think
Yeah.
a lot of times what people do is they're like, I tried it. Like I tried to get to, because I always feel like I think meditation has this symbolism of being a monk, sitting cross-legged,
Yeah.
getting so deep. And so if they don't, and then the idea that when people are like, oh, I think it's misconstrued that you're not going to have, you blank your mind. That's at least what I always thought. Like, I can't blank my mind. You're saying
Yeah.
allow the thoughts, accept the thoughts. You're not going to blank your mind necessarily. It's just the
Yeah.
fact that you're letting them pass through, but this awareness of your body at the same time.
Yeah. So your question was, say it again one more time.
If if someone wants to start and they're trying too hard and they're like, I'm not getting the results, I can't meditate. Like, what would be your advice? Would you tell them to go to a guided meditation on YouTube to start, or would you tell them, what would you tell them to do?
I mean, that's the problem, is that you're trying to do something. I mean, that's kind of really the issues. I mean,
So how do
it's
they
literally
release that trying?
literally just sit there. I mean, it just takes practice to really just sit there. It's very simple. Like, you just sit there, allow things to come up. I would recommend the guided meditation as well. I mean, that helps as well. But eventually, like, you learn that you have these capacities within yourself, and you learn to trust yourself more. You kind of just guide your own self, and you start to enjoy yourself a little bit more. So it's like, the more you kind of just start to feel yourself a little bit more, and you start to like get a little bit more in touch with this awareness faculty, you realize that it automatically is just a good feeling, like a good feeling to be in. So you're not, so when you're trying to stop, when you're trying too hard, you just have to stick with that feeling of trying too hard. Like, you just sit there and you allow it to be
Okay.
you'll sit there and you allow it to be your meditation, where you allow yourself to be aware that you're trying hard. It goes with every single thought you have, like, oh, I got to do this, or I got to try meditating this way. I got to, like, the essence of what the teaching that I was talking about is just to observe every single thought. Like, the same way that, again, like, you could imagine an umbrella, a book, you can imagine a bag, but they all just come and go. But the thing behind it that's kind of creating that experience, that mental experience and image, is your awareness. And so once you start to kind of just play with that and realize that the concept of trying is like something that comes up from your mind and then it kind of just subsides. It's not something that's permanent, but your awareness faculty is always permanent. It's always there. Then you start to get in touch with the feeling and the essence of awareness, because that seems boring. And that's something I struggled with as well when I first started. It was kind of boring just sitting there and kind of just being myself, because I'm just like, well, what's supposed to happen now? Like,
Yeah,
aren't I supposed to like
exactly.
aren't I supposed to like do something, or like aren't I supposed to like feel something? And again, you just observe that, and that becomes your meditation. And then once you start to get past that little barrier, you call it a gatekeeper, if you will, that little gatekeeper, that's the little chatter in your head that's saying, "What am I supposed to do now?" And once you start to get past that little chatter, you just observe it. It's like when you do a stare down, right? If I try to stare you down, the more dominant person, the more dominant person is gonna,
Good
keep the eye
point.
contact. The other person is gonna look away. So if you're dominant, because awareness is dominant, it's everywhere. It's overseeing everything. And so when you're looking at your thoughts, it becomes like you put enough pressure on it to where they just dissipate. And so maybe that's where the whole thought process of like, oh, your mind goes blank when you meditate comes from, because you're literally putting so much pressure on your thought process and you're seeing through it, and then it just kind of vanishes. And I mean, actually, it was when I on my third channel, I did a meditation with this girl, and it was her first time doing it, actually, and her mind just went completely blank. She was like, "Am I brain dead?" That's that funny. That's
All
a
right, you did the meditation with her. Did she? Are you, when you do a guided meditation, are you asking him to talk back to you, or are you just talking the whole way?
I'm just talking the whole way. Yeah.
Because we'll do one today with me as the guinea pig, because I want to see how you do it, and I want to see the style, because it's
Okay.
cool.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Nice.
the the other part of this, let me just get into what I mentioned earlier. Does it work? Does it help? Alternatives to meditations and verse flow. So you play sports, namely soccer, or some of us know it as football.
Football.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, right. Like if you don't live in the States, it's football. Okay, so just
Yeah. Messi came to USA, so
yeah.
people might start calling it football. I don't know.
So I always think of flow state. You know the flow state.
Yes.
All right. So where you basically have a level of challenge that you can meet and an intense focus, right? And the highest level of flow, in my opinion, which I forgot what the name of the guy that's really big on flow states, but is extreme games, like extreme sports, um like guys that go snowboarding and get dropped in by a helicopter and go, these 40 feet jumps. They were saying
Mhm.
this is the most extreme level of flow, or someone that drives a motorcycle like 200 miles per hour. And you think about it, it's like intense focus, intense challenge, and you can't really let anything else in, right? If you're going like 200 miles an hour, you can't be like,
Yeah.
miss my ex. Like, right? Like, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's got to be the most intense flow, right? Is
Yeah, yeah.
You're driving 200 miles an hour, you got to be dialed the fuck in, like, or else you're done. So it's like, and some people get it with studying. Like people that are really good at studying, they're in a flow state when they're studying their midterms, whatever.
Yeah.
And so some people consider being in that flow state almost like an alternative or similar state as meditation. Would you agree?
Yeah. It's all about
Do you have any
focus and attention. Yeah.
do you have that when you play soccer?
So, sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
See, playing basketball for years, it's what they call when you're in the zone, right? When you're
Yeah.
playing really well.
Yep. It's like when you don't get. It also depends on your environment as well. Like, you know, if you have teammates that support you or teammates that get mad and frustrated. It also, yeah, so your ability to deal with pressure as well is also goes into like if you can handle
It's
what's in that
probably
moment
with me with
when you're
sports too,
training.
with the flow state momentum. You make a couple shots, you shoot more, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
momentum as well.
momentum of it, like
Yeah.
also. So like sometimes when people get frustrated with meditation or things like that, I'm like, you do it more than you think. When you drive your car alone, you're usually in a focused state, right? It might not be as the level of meditation. Um, what would be maybe the clear benefit that you're not getting in flow state that you would get in meditation, like the one that we're talking about with you?
Well, spiritual. I mean,
Spiritual?
spiritual encounters, I would say, as well as I mean, I personally think you're always meditating in a sense. Like there's that awareness faculty part of yourself is always there. It just needs to be looked at. So I mean, it's just a matter of just turning around and looking at it. I mean, sometimes we have a disconnect towards it. But I mean, you can say your real self is always there meditating. You could say, but um, yeah, the benefit is just the spiritual encounters as well as you build up your energy. So like, I've felt my energy levels go up meditating and stuff. Like, I mean, because you have energy channels in your body. So once you start to open them up, you start to feel yourself open even more. And when it comes to relationships, for example, too, like take an honest look at yourself when you're meditating. So like, if you have feelings of neediness, they manifest in your body like tension in your chest, or like just tension all over your body. And so when you start to meditate, you start to actually let go and reverse all these needy behaviors or like these clingy, behavioral patterns because you're watching them and you're putting pressure on them. And the same way that your partner is probably going to do that eventually when you're in a relationship, they're probably going to look at you and really take a good look and honest evaluation at yourself. So you might as well start with yourself instead of have someone else do it for you, do the homework for you. So, so it's always best to kind of just have time to yourself or really know yourself. And, so meditation really helps with knowing yourself. You can have spiritual encounters with God. And there's also a dark side to it to where, sometimes you see your demons and, sometimes you can see dark stuff as well. I also have to bring that up as that can
Have you heard
happen.
this?
But
Have you heard this word equanimity?
nah.
You never heard that word before? Because in a meditation book, The Science of Enlightenment or something, the one that's on my book notes on my website,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
which is a really good book about meditation. Guys from LA originally too.
Okay.
And he became a monk, in another country and all this other stuff. But he keeps saying equanimity gets dispersed throughout your body. He always
What is
uses equanimity a lot.
like balance, you would say? Like
Maybe
harmony?
just I don't know because it's just not a word that you hear a lot, right? It's just
Let's see.
equanimity meaning. I'm going to look it up right now. It's mental calmness, composure, evenness of temper,
Yeah,
especially in a
yeah.
difficult situation.
Oh,
Kind
yeah.
of okay. So
Actually, what happens is I've actually felt that transfer into like even when I play sports, it transfers over because so you start out with your eyes closed and then you start to get the feeling of that, and once you get the feeling of what it feels like to have your eyes closed and be in a meditative state, then you start to do it when you're walking. People automatically kind of go into a meditative state when they walk.
that's what he says in the
So
book. He says, when
yeah,
I'm in line now, he goes, I just take it as a time to meditate. He goes,
yeah,
people have said before that drinking coffee before meditation is impossible. He goes, I enjoy a coffee before meditation. Like he's like, nothing throws me off of that. And the equanimity
Meaning,
that cleans your body, like he said, that cleans your thinking, I guess is what it is. So
David Goggins, if you know him, like he started meditating 2 hours before he goes to bed. He said that in a
he
podcast before.
meditates.
Yeah, 2 hours before he goes to bed. So he wakes up with a clear mind.
It's going to be
So
trouble for him not to talk. I'd believe it if I saw it.
it's in a
Have you
he
read
did a
his book?
podcast with he did it with Mike. Yeah, I've read it. He said that in the podcast with Mike Thurston. I think that's what.
I believe you. But I mean, the interesting thing about his book, really interesting, is the end of the book. I'm talking about the first book because I think he has a second book.
Can't Hurt
now.
Me. Yeah, he just released one. Yeah, I read the first one. I haven't read that one.
But Can't Hurt Me, like it's a biography is what it is.
Yeah.
It's a biography that someone wrote with him. And it's good because I love a biography myself. It's because it's real stories, right? He couldn't make that shit up. Like if he did, highly creative, you know what I mean? But at the very end, which I don't hear many people talk about this part because the cool parts are like him, Navy SEAL training and like in the fucking mirror, like these kinds of things.
Yeah.
And by the way, I always tell people, like, I think it's a great book. I think some of the things, and this is a great example that the way he rolls, the way he does things, the way he motivates himself, it's not for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So like someone will be like, yeah, but they still aren't going to do what he does. They're not going to go in the mirror and be like, you're a piece of like you're a piece of shit. Like he put Post-it notes, how stupid you are, how crazy. Like that could work for some people, but it's not going to work for everyone. It depends on your personality. And that's what's really interesting when you look at how I love the way he talks about from like basically 3-4 years old, because he's working in a roller skate ring that's owned by his dad, who basically makes his family the slave labor of the Rolladium. Yeah. And if you think about it, though, that's where his work ethic was born. That's where it was ingrained. Whether he likes his dad or not, or likes the fact that his dad made him do all this hard work, that transpired to when he was 20, 21, 22. Like, it's kind of interesting. I'm not saying his dad wasn't a piece of shit, jerk, asshole, not a good person. But some of the things that happened to him when he was young enabled him to be a Navy SEAL and be this person. So it's kind of interesting without that. But at the very end, you don't remember what happened?
I can't. I remember, no.
All right. So this is the interesting part. He's at the very end of the book and he's like, I think he's like 37, 38, and he's accomplished like getting through Navy SEALs. He kind of failed at Ranger school, but he's doing well, right? Like, he's overcome a lot in his life. And he can't figure it out. He thinks he's dying. I don't know if you remember. He thinks he's dying because he said his energy's not there. His body was off. He's going to the doctor, and the doctor is saying, like, we don't know.
Tight psoases, right?
Yeah, and we don't know what it is. He literally had so much tension in his body. He needed to stretch.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it came down to. The way the book wrote it was a little bit more eloquent, but he's referencing
tight psoas muscles, like type hip flex.
Yeah, like his whole body was just full of tension. But if you looked at the way he lived his life, he thrived off tension. So he was saying that, like, during the Navy SEALs, that, there's some guy that came to the SEAL group about stretching and those kinds of things. And he was like, yeah, I was tight. And the guy told me for him, it's probably going to take you like, a long time to get all this out, this tension, where someone might take 3-4 weeks or a month. And that got him back. It just shows you how much tension we carry. Like,
yeah.
And even though he lived this, I don't know, bravado, cool life on the exterior where you're like, it's not rags to riches. It's more like a fucking Rocky story, which was his idol in the book.
Yeah, that's his idol.
You know what I mean? Like, it's cool, but you're like, he never got therapy. He never dealt with his stuff. It wasn't just stretching, just the way he's carrying his stuff, right? Like, so I always thought that was interesting because he has a moment where he's in bed. He's thinking he's dying. He's like, he can't figure it out. Like, he can't do his workouts. he has low energy, and the doctors were
Yeah.
unsure of what it was. And then that's why he does all these stretches and he does running more than he does weightlifting now and stuff like that. It was all tension based. What you were just saying about storing your
Yeah.
stuff.
Yep. I remember having also a memory too. I did cross country when I was in high school, and I think there was like I think it was maybe in practice or something. We were doing like something intense workout, and for some reason this is messing me up. So like, in order, I thought to myself, okay, let me just suck in air into my chest so that I can finish the rest of this. So like, I held in my breath, and I just like sprint the rest of the way, and then that's kind of like how I would get through races where I would just like if I started to, you know, lose my breath or couldn't catch my breath, I'll just suck it in even more. And then I start to develop, now that I notice in my meditations, I notice a huge amount of chest tension that came from that's how I train my body. Like I would just suck in air into my chest and then just hold it in so I can finish the rest of, whatever I'm doing. But, but there's a bunch of anxiety around it as well as fear that, these kind of emotions kind of drive you to kind of push yourself, but also like they have a backwards, you know, effect where it just messes up your body or like all that kind of stuff.
It's
But
interesting that you did that. That book, Breathe by James Nestor. I don't know if you've heard of that. I have the book notes on my website too. Um, Great book, man, because it's useful. Like it suggests things you can do. And there was some guy that was like I don't want to say world record holder, but he was really good at long distance running, and he was from Europe. And they were like Runners Magazine and all these things. They were like, he does everything wrong, but he wins. And it was all based on some kind of unique breathing method where he breathed through his nose. I forgot what it was.
oh
I don't know the guy's name, but he's featured in the book. And it was, he naturally did this breathing exercise. Breathing's so underrated.
yeah, super underrated.
You know what I
There's
mean? With Wim
yeah,
Hof now and all that, just taking deep, clean breaths and expanding your ability to breathe deeper is big.
yep. It's not. It's also like the way that I see breathing too has changed as well. Because before it'd be like I had to practice breathing deep, but I noticed how like it was just impossible to keep up with the discipline of like breathing deep and because you have to put so much conscious effort to undo those patterns. I started to just face some of my emotional stuff, and when I started to do that, the breathing automatically started to become natural and more deeper.
Mm.
Whereas before, like I'd have to like for example, Wim Hof method is like you know was it like quick breath in, quick out for like 30 seconds, and then you hold it. Whereas if you just are really in touch with yourself emotionally, you just
Breathing
naturally
through
breathe
your nose
deeper.
is so important too.
That too, yeah.
You
Tongue on top of your mouth, and then you breathe through your nose.
so in that book, Breathe, he has a chapter on Native Americans, and he says one thing that all Native Americans had in common was that they strictly from infanthood made you breathe from your nose. All of them. They believed that it was the only way to breathe, and if you see pictures of Native Americans, they're always like this because they don't want to open their mouth to breathe, is what he said. Because
Oh,
they think it's really bad to breathe from your mouth. That's what he said in the chapter. It was more better written, but it's kind of interesting. All the tribes believe that you always, and they would even like when the babies were young would cover their mouths to
yeah.
make sure they're breathing through their nose. I actually tape my mouth before I sleep.
Oh, interesting.
I put tape because I'm a mouth breather. I know it. And actually, when you do that, and actually in the book, it talks about like how it changes your face structure, your teeth. The animal kingdom mostly has straight teeth. They don't have messed up teeth. This is what he says in the book. Although I've seen dogs before that have messed up teeth, but he says that most animals always had straight teeth, and it's because of our breathing from our mouths. We're not supposed to
Yeah,
breathe from our mouths. Like the nose is supposed to be the one.
interesting. And I know that one thing too with breathing is that also breathing in your belly as well, because like you can
Mm.
draw a lot. Like when that breathing center in your belly is open, you can draw a lot more energy, have more higher energy levels, and things like that.
And
Whereas
hold it.
like not a whole, I mean, it's just to breathe in your belly and allow your belly, the muscles in your abs to be relaxed. um, so that when you breathe in, you can feel the energy can draw up as like chills up your spine and things like that. You just feel a little bit of hits of
You
bliss here and there.
you probably learned that a lot from cross country running though. Like you have to breathe through your nose. Do they teach you to breathe through your nose for cross country?
I mean, yeah, they said breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth, but it wasn't like it was. There's no. That was just it. You know, it was no
Not a
explanation behind it.
technique.
It's
Not
not
a
like a
technique. It was just like in through your nose, out through your mouth. You know, that's like I had a problem where I'd bring on my shoulders when I run. So when I'd be running, I'd just have it up, and my coach was like, "Bring them down." But now
to
that
relax.
yeah, to relax it. But I mean, I didn't really know how to relax myself. That was the thing. So I'd always bring my shoulders up, and that also has to do with me sucking in the air into my chest. So it's like you suck in there into your chest. You're automatically gonna bring your shoulders up, and then you're kind of in this fearful, like state kind of thing. That's kind of how my physiology started to get wired. And then once you start to relax yourself, allow the energy to flow through you, because again, awareness is everywhere. So if you allow awareness to just flow through your body and allow it to just be there, you start to get more energy and allow yourself to relax more. You feel more safer in your body, and yeah,
So do you feel like, because obviously you're not always in this state of complete awareness, but when you're having a
yeah.
bad day or something bad happens to you, do you find your cell to go sit in, or do you
Some
like, is that what you do?
here sometimes, most of the time I do. Sometimes I just my mind just spins too much, and then I'm just like, yeah, I lost a little bit of like I'll be on my
Spins on the
phone, like I'll go to
problem.
my it spirals a little bit, and then I'll just go on my phone and then just watch a video or something. But most of the time, I train myself to just go, somewhere private, and then I found myself I did that naturally, where I would just at the end of the day, I would just uh, back then when I was more into the charismatic church, I would put on worship music and then just sing or something. But now it's more just like I just sit, just go to the bathroom, sit there, and just float, like literally just gather myself in, um, and then just feel everything, and I start to feel a little bit nice. I know that's also a distraction, like something not to really pay, not to be too attached to though, like the feelings of bliss and like relaxation, because that does happen. Because it's kind of like when you smoke weed, like you feel good, you feel relaxed. Same thing, like you can start to develop your natural internal state to where you start to feel naturally good, but that can also be like you're smoking a joint kind of thing. That's not the kind of whole point of meditation. It's more to be you know enlightened and have union with God, and those things can kind of be seen as distractions. Just feeling good, but I mean
What's
that's
the
another level to it.
definition of enlightenment?
To me, I mean, I kind of told you that dream that I had. I mean, I can't really define it. It's kind of something that it's just there's different stages to it. I would say
Hmm.
different like seasons I go through. Um, I would start off. Enlightenment starts with detachment. So detachment from your thoughts, from your own way, your own will, and then you
Hmm.
start to unite yourself to more of divine, something divine. And once you have a realization of that something divine, then that's when the enlightenment process starts to happen. And then I would say that, and then however that comes to you, and however you experience that, that's kind of what an enlightening moment would be, where you kind of see that there is a God or there is something higher than yourself here watching you. Because I've been in those states where like I felt something was watching me, something benevolent in the universe was all around me at once, and then I'm not in that state anymore, which is why like I think it you go through different stages and seasons where it's that, and then sometimes it disappears and then comes and goes kind of thing. But
Do you feel like you haven't talked about it today? We talked a lot about meditation, and do you feel like you've told me before that you're more intuitive, if you'd call it that, to people's energy, that you read their
yeah.
energy? Look at that smile. You're like, yeah, actually, yeah. All right. So describe that. Like, is it intuition? Is it reading energy? Is it reading feelings? Like, what is it?
Yeah, it's like reading feelings. Like the same thing. The principle is if you can sense yourself and what you're feeling, you can kind of do it with other people as well. Because it's like your ability to sense, you kind of like push into something. Like for example, if somebody's feeling me out, I can feel something go like this to me. Because if I have control of my own attention, I do that to myself. I push, go into myself like that. So it's kind of, you're just aware of like, how these kind of things work, if that makes sense. Um, but then there's things that have essences, for example, and you can read the essence of something. And what that is basically like, if you think about it, the ocean has a different flavor to when I mention a forest or a desert. So you kind of start to see people in that same way too, where they have a unique kind of feeling to them, like the desert, the ocean. And then, you know, that's how you kind of just feel it out a little bit. And then on top of that, then you can also read people's auras where like you can, I've seen people, I've seen people's like, this might sound crazy, but I've seen people's souls, for example, like sometimes like I'll see them like hovering a little bit out of their body. If that makes sense. Like I even have an episode where like, I have interviewed someone named Mass in England, and I was able to see her aura. I wasn't necessarily trying to see it, but it just kind of, I saw like this glow around her, and I was like, oh, there's just
On the
pointing it
camera?
out. Yeah, through the screen.
Was that due to what you were talking about, or that just a state she
Yeah,
was?
yeah. Actually, we were talking about something, and then it just popped up out of nowhere, and then it's just like, oh, what the heck? But and then
What did it mean to you though? Like that it was.
I don't know, but these things. I don't know what it meant, but it's not something that I try to like glamorize or like, oh, like I see people's auras. I'm so. It's like it just happens, and it's just part of life. I mean,
Has it been useful for you in some way?
yeah, because if someone has bad intentions, you kind of sense it and feel it out right away. Although sometimes if and I've been in states where I've had low self esteem, so it's like you still go into that situation knowing that that stuff's gonna happen. I mean, people already kind of built like that where they know stuff's gonna happen, but then they kind of just ignore their intuition like that. I mean, talking about breakups, it's like
Do
people.
you do? All right, so this is an interesting thing about intuition, right? Because follow your gut, follow your intuition, but when does the line come that you want to believe what you want to believe?
That's a good point.
You
I
know,
think that requires. Yeah, yeah.
I'm sorry to cut you up.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
For example, if you um like a breakup, right? You're clouded by what you want to believe,
Yes.
and she's she's with someone else, and you want to believe like I know deep down she's not happy. This is a common one that I hear. I know
Mhm.
that this isn't going to work out for them. Is that intuition, or is that wishful thinking, or is that just imposing what you want to believe?
That's a good question. I'm learning. I'm still learning about that, but I would say kind of off of some experiences, say data that I've collected. Um,
Yeah, we
uh,
talked about this before, data and stuff.
yeah.
According to
um,
studies in America about
yeah. According to
this.
study, I would say, t- you feel it pass through you. So like, you kind of want to come from a neutral place. You don't want to start like we talked about, like trying to, was it the four or whatever? I forgot what it's called. But one thing you want to do is not assume, because if you're assuming stuff, it's you're kind of pulling yourself out of the present moment. So you want to be neutral. And when you start to feel the pull of your energy going to something else, like for example, if you're in that situation, you know that so and so's relationship is not going to go well. If you're neutral and your energy is neutral, and you feel yourself starting to get pulled, like some reason you feel like that's going to happen, it's just a simple like, okay, like I see that I'm getting pulled towards this direction. Like, there is probably not going to work out, but let's see if it actually happens. That's kind of like the humility you want to have around it. You don't want to be like, oh, I know, like
I'm so
I'm
right, is
I'm
what you're
so
saying.
right, like because that's pride, and part of detachment, and spirituality is not really superimposing yourself over reality, just seeing it for what it is. So if you're right, you'll see some signs that are also prove it as well. I've had, for example, like maybe after you sense that, you'll have a friend of theirs say, oh, like I heard so and so like they got in a fight last night. So then it starts to like become a little bit more true, and then you start to pay attention a little bit more, and then okay, and all of a sudden you see on social media they stop posting or whatever. And then yeah, maybe you were right, but it's not about being right. It's just it is what it is. It is what it is. But I mean, that's kind of how I've seen it so far. I mean, um,
Do you see auras though on people randomly?
just random. I'm not trained to do it.
So
um,
Ben W asked, can you see my aura minus the yellow light in the
oh,
back?"
what's interesting, what I've seen with you. I haven't necessarily seen like a color to it, but I've seen like a magnetic pull. Like I don't know how to describe it, but I've seen like a magnetic pull into yourself. Like it was like I could see like these waves coming out of you, like in your stomach, and also like in your head, just like a magnetic pull towards you, like that. I don't. That's what I've seen so far. But I mean, it's not like I don't really. There's no colors behind it. Really, it was just something that I've.
A magnetic pull.
Yeah, I
Okay.
mean that's the extent to what I've seen. But I mean,
During a
yeah, it's not
during us talking or during when
during us talking. Like, it was when we talked last, and that was with the plants in the background.
huh.
So I think it was just
What
during
do
a
you think that
session.
is?
I
Just being
think
engaged in a conversation and rapport, maybe?
that, but I think it's just your nature where you have that pull, like that natural pull, like that grounding. Like you have somewhat of like a magnetic nature to you. But it's grounded. Like people are drawn to you, but it's like in more of like a you know like a grounded and magnetic way. I mean, I don't know. I think it's also because you do
What do you mean by
hypnotherapy as well.
yeah, could
Gra-
be. What do you mean
Like
by ground?
down to earth.
Ah, down to earth. Okay.
Like
That's
you can pull people in, like and let them be, kind of thing. So I mean, that's
approachable, I guess, would be the word for
yeah,
most people.
approachable. Yeah.
Well, thanks. I'll take that as a compliment, and I hope it's true.
I mean, I don't like to make this stuff up because it's fucking embarrassing. It's sounding like a spiritual guru, like trying to give people,
I
tell
don't think
people
you
this kind
come
of stuff.
off that way. I wouldn't.
Okay.
I mean, even if you did, I mean, it's interesting. It's your experience. It's not, um, it's your experience with it, and it doesn't seem like you have any bad intentions. It's kind of interesting though that these spiritual gurus are different things. I forgot which one this one was, but there was a documentary made. I think the guy was based in Brazil, and like people would come to him to cure their, broken arm, all these things, and he would do it. And he would
Yeah.
like, for the most part, he was pretty successful, and he was kind of strange looking. What's interesting is usually a lot of the people are from India that with gurus and stuff like that, right? Um,
Mhm.
but they found out later on that he was abusing his power with, with women and different things like that. And they were saying if this is even true, but his results were good. But they have moments where they have pictures of him with like this aura around him and different things. And I
Mhm.
just wonder for him, he just had this power of belief. Like people
Yeah.
would, they had this common thing where, like some elderly person would come and there was lines of people waiting to see him, and they'd have a cane, and he would just like look at them in the face, say a few things, grab the cane and throw it. There was a pile of
Yeah.
canes on the side of the line. Grab the cane and throw it. There was, dude, there was a pile like 15 canes. It's like throw it in the cane pile. And this person comes over, and then the person's like fucking walking. I mean,
Yeah.
like to stage all this stuff, and the guy was around for 20 years. Like he did some wild stuff. But then they
Mhm.
always, what's interesting about that is, and I don't know always, right? But like there's this element of human that if you give them enough power, power corrupts. It's just interesting. And you're
Yeah.
supposed to be this healing person. But I believe like he believed that so deeply, and he was an authority figure that,
Mhm.
someone throws the cane away and it's like, oh my goodness, I got my walking back. Like that power of belief is so, so strong. I mean,
Yeah. I used to do that kind of stuff, like when I was
throw people's
more in the
canes.
charismatic church. No, not throw people's.
Because I mean, it's so traumatic, right? Like this guy, you got this guy that's like 87 years old. He comes up to the head of the line. He's got a cane, and the guy goes, grabs the cane. It's just like, and says a few things like intensely, and then the guy
Yeah.
just walks off, and he goes like, and like I said,
Yeah.
this wasn't at a circus. This is at a place that's been around for years. I forgot the name of the place, and you
Yeah.
think to yourself, yeah, he's in trouble for corruption and building too big a place, and he's got an entourage of women. I mean, it just happens every time. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
just can't. There's some human things that like if they get that power, I don't know. It's just I don't know, but the power of that belief in authority figure, I don't know. It's just interesting. I don't know how to even in the breakup space, right? People get attracted to card reading.
Tarot,
because they
like tarot
want to know.
cards, tarot
Yeah,
cards, right?
because they want the
Okay.
future, right? So it's like, come on.
People are just anxious. They just want answers.
All right.
Sometimes the answer is no answer.
Yeah, it's very powerful to say I don't know, right? It's
IDK.
like there's a lot of credit I give to people when you go, actually, I don't know. It's like, all right, thanks for not lying. Thanks, because so many people will be like, well, actually, all right, let's we still got a few on deck. People have come and gone a little bit here. Anyone that's on deck, let's see if you can help me do a guided meditation, if you don't mind, if you're not too tired.
No, yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
How long do you think it'll take?
No, like 10, 15 minutes? I have no idea. Can give you, yeah, like 10, 15 minutes.
There's no plan in meditation, Mac. Don't be ignorant.
Yeah.
Don't be. Come on.
Come on. I mean, yeah, I would try to make it like 10, 15 minutes. But yeah.
Whatever. I'm open
How
to
much
it.
time? How much time
As
do
much as
you?
you want. Like I said, it's late where you're at. It's 12:42 p.m. where I am, so I'm going to lunch after this. So isn't it crazy how technology from 15 years ago, like you can just talk to someone around the world on camera. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? It's kind of taken for granted sometimes. All right. So,
All right. So, yes, shake off, a little bit of the day here.
all right.
Um,
Anyone that wants to join the meditation can follow along too, right?
all right. So, the way that we're going to start is actually with eyes open. And so, what you're going to do is you're just going to zoom out your focus, allow your sense of seeing to just be as it is. And we're going to first start out with, going over your seeing. So, first, bring your awareness to your center of your head, and then bring your awareness to your ability to see. So you'll bring it towards your eyes, your eyelids, and with your eyes open, just allow yourself to take in everything at once. So from the corner of your eyes to the top of your head to the bottom, you want to take everything in at once, like you're looking at a painting or a picture. So go ahead and start with go back to your awareness in the center of your head, go to your ability to see, and then go to the sense of sight and what you're seeing. Allow it to be there. And if you have any facial tension in your muscles, allow it to relax. And then you're going to go ahead and close your eyes. And then once you do that, you're going to go to your sense of hearing. And so, again, get in touch with your ability, your awareness, and then go to your ability to hear. So, take in your hearing at once, and then bring your awareness to whatever you're hearing. It could be my voice, it could be things in the background, it could be the wind outside. And notice how you don't have to superimpose your thoughts over your hearing. So you may think, I'm hearing this or I'm hearing that. Regardless of what your thoughts are saying, the hearing will still happen on its own. There's not necessarily an I, or not necessarily a personality behind the hearing. The hearing is just going to be happening on its own. There's no need to think anything or feel anything. The hearing will just be there. And from your hearing, you want to go to your sense of touch. Notice how your feet are touching the floor, the clothes on your skin. And you want to notice how you don't have to try to think anything, feel anything, do anything in order for the sense of touch to be there. It automatically is there on its own. You don't have to try to force it. Touch is happening on its own. There is no I behind it. It's automatically just there. So be aware of your awareness and be aware of your ability to touch. So the clothes on your skin, your feet on the floor, your hands on your lap, maybe. And then you want to go to the nose, your sense of smell. So notice your ability to be aware is there, this light, subtle feeling. And notice again how you don't have to try anything for your smelling to happen. It's automatically happening on its own. You don't have to think anything, feel anything, do anything. The smelling is just going to take place and happen on its own. And just allow yourself to breathe into the nose, feel the nose or the air go through your nostrils, and whatever smells there may be in the atmosphere, maybe just the smell of things around you, the air might have a certain smell to it. Just notice it, and if there's no smell, just notice the air coming into your nose and notice how this process is automatic and it doesn't need an eye or thought process or feelings in order for it to happen on its own. And then you want to go to your feelings. And so, whatever you may be feeling, it could be nothing, it could be neutral, it could be a certain emotion rising up. You want to notice how your feelings are happening on their own. Whatever you may be feeling, there's no need to judge it, label it. It's an automatic process and it's happening on its own. And so bring your awareness there. Notice the subtlety of your awareness go around your chest, your feeling area, and notice your ability to be aware, touch your feeling. And then from your sense of feeling, allow it to unfold and unravel and allow it to happen on its own. And just rest there for a little bit. And then bring your awareness to your tongue or your sense of taste. So, whatever taste that's in your mouth right now, you want to be aware of it. Notice how there's no I behind it. You don't have to think that I'm tasting something. You don't have to feel that you're tasting something. It just automatically happens on its own. The senses are a process that happens on its own mechanism, if you will. And you just want to bring your awareness there and allow it to play it or to do its own thing. And then let's go back to the sense of sight again. So with your eyes closed still, you want to notice the darkness behind your eyes. Notice how maybe the ego is commenting something like, oh, it's dark or anything. Those thoughts can be there or they don't have to be there. But either way, the sense of seeing is happening on its own. There's no real, you don't have to really think anything or feel anything or do anything for it to happen on its own. It's an automatic process and you just want to allow it to be there gently, allow your awareness to gently relax there. And then now we want to scan the body. So the toes, the feet. And again, you want to disidentify from it. So allow your awareness to go to your feet, but notice how you don't have to think anything for your feet to be there. You don't have to necessarily feel anything for the feet to be there. It's just there on its own. You want to go to the legs. And then you want to go to the stomach. Relax any tension there. Go to your chest, your arms, your hands, your neck. And then now we want to go to the headspace. So you want to go to the sides of your head, where your sideburns are. You want to just notice, bring your attention there, allow it to rest there for a little bit. Relax any tension you have on the sides of your head. Just feel the subtle feeling of awareness around the sides of your head and allow things to relax. You want to go to the back of your head, same thing. Allow if there's any tension there to come up and allow it to release itself. Go to the top of your head. Feel the feelings there. This tension, allow it to relax. And then go to the front of your face. Allow your attention to relax there. And then now you want to go to the middle of your head. So if you need to kind of feel where the middle of your head is, go to the sides of your head, go to the top of your head, and feel your way into the middle of the head. And for a minute, just focus there. And you want to feel as if you're looking out of your face, as if it was a mask. So concentrate your attention there in your head. the middle of your head, and I'll let you know when to open up your eyes. All right, and if you need a minute, keep your eyes closed. If you experience anything, keep your eyes closed, and slowly come back to your senses. And that'll be the end of the meditation.
That was good, man. Went to the center of the head. That's good. Very good.
I felt something lift. You feel something lift off of you, or like something kind of shift.
Hmm.
What was that?
I'm not gonna tell you. I'm just. I don't know. I don't know what it was. I don't know what it was. I just
You know, you,
got. Go
you
ahead.
know what it was? It's a spirit. I'll just say how it is.
A spirit lifted off of me. A bad one or a good one?
That one.
Really? You felt the spirit come off of me?
It's still somewhat there, but it's like almost off. But I mean, how do you feel though? I mean,
Well, now that you told me it's still there, it kind of bugs me.
yeah, you feel the anxiety, right?
Uh, just that you said that wasn't, that there's a spirit made me think like, oh, is that true? Um,
I can I can maybe pray for you and see if something happens. Would you like to?
to go back to meditate, man, I could have stayed in that state longer.
Yeah.
I had to push myself to get out of it because I was in there. And what
Nice, nice.
was interesting about it. I definitely respond to giving getting directions like that from you, and I'm sensitive to different voices. Like if I don't like your voice, this might sound odd. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then I wouldn't want to continue. But I got there, and I felt myself when I usually meditate. When you have thoughts, like I was like, I was I was completely aware, and even when those thoughts that sometimes come in that space, um, uh, I wasn't just pushing them away. They were more distant, less
Nice.
intense, less trying to, because they were a couple of the thoughts that come into my head are thoughts that things I want, right? And so like that was getting to the center of the head was good. That was a good mark. I haven't used that before in a meditation in the center of the head. Usually it's like relax your arms, relax your legs, those kinds of things. Um, uh, but when you say a spirit, is that like an entity or
Yeah,
different?
they sometimes latch onto your body to prevent you from going into those mystical experiences. So usually, like if you're close to having a mystical experience, or like like how I've said, I've had all these encounters and stuff. You know, it's because like spirits kind of sometimes block you from it. I've had experiences where I've seen this cloud of shroud of darkness, and these kind of spirits were like blocking it, and then as soon as they cleared off, it just that's why you're probably able to go deeper as well, like especially in the center of the head. That's a good place to rest yourself to kind of shine, like repel them away. 'Cause that's why I have the halo around my head, and that's kind of like people view the halo because that's what saints have around their head. That's something like, oh, like a symbol of holiness and nothing more than that. There's really like an energetic quality behind it that like that's why, especially my name Expanded Minds podcast and the thing behind it, I had a bunch of experiences where that opened up, and then it was just like I was in the like you said, my thoughts were distant, and I was just like in a whole transcendent like way of being. And so like if you, again tying it into breakups, it's like a lot of people are like have trouble going through breakups and stuff. But if you had a little bit of that awareness and that halo there and that distance from your thoughts, sometimes it can be easier to get it can be easier to get through rather than just you know
Well, I mean, when you say a spirit lifted, and then you say a little bit of it's still there, what do you do with a little bit? Go back into
meditation. You can do this. Go back to the same place. Prayer also helps. I listen to Gregorian chants. I love just hearing the otherworldliness of it, and it usually scares them off. But
you sense them.
yeah. So I mean, I don't like saying because like people don't.
It's okay. It's all right. We're
Yeah, I mean,
talking
I
about this
sense
today.
them.
This is what we're talking about today. So it's not like you're,
Yeah,
hey man, like I'm not making a joke about it because I've been in the, like I said, when I did hypnotherapy, my course over 2 years ago, um, that was an introduction to a lot of people that believe in things that are far than what I've, you know,
yeah,
ventured into. So it was like an introduction. And when they brought
yeah,
up that topic, I was a little uncomfortable. And I've had a client or two like think that they had something like that. And I'm a little like, it's not that I'm saying that they're totally false, but it's something that I didn't want to go into that with someone because it's like almost like, is that something specially trained for someone?
yeah. I mean, everybody has their own entities that they deal with, their own demons that they battle. They say people say it metaphorically. Sometimes, I mean, sometimes I could see it literally, where like think they're spirits, some people and stuff like that. So that's just my way of viewing things, where I think there's these entities out there sometimes, and they suck your energy and life force out, and they block you from having mystical experiences. I mean, I've even had a friend that kind of had a similar thing where when he meditated, he actually got an imagination of like something blocking his eyes like that, like some kind of dark spirit going like that. Um, and so, I mean, stuff like that is kind of like hints showing that there's stuff there. I mean, again, it's nothing to worry about though. It's just something that
Oh no, no, no. It's not, I'm not gonna lose sleep.
I don't want to. I don't want
It is
to put. I don't
no,
want to
no,
like make things seem like they're just
no,
like
no, no. I won't lose sleep over it. But
yeah,
the no, I find it interesting. I did get deep, and I could have stayed in that for longer. So like when it
exactly.
came out, I was like, oh, because I heard you say open your eyes, and I stayed there, and it was good.
The thing though that I want to point out is that so the body is like a machine. So when we talk about the senses, right, the five senses, they're mechanical in nature. So the seeing has its own process and its own way of doing things. The hearing has its own way of doing things. And so that's what I was kind of pointing to, is that you don't have to do anything for the sense of sight to be there. It's its own function, its own work. It has its own, yeah, working and things like that. Same thing with the hearing. Same thing with the touch. It has its own. It's like its own cog in the human body. And so when you start to pull apart the cogs, or pull apart the little parts inside of your body like that, the senses, then what gets revealed is your awareness. And once you have your awareness opened up, then you could focus more energy into wherever needs to get focused, and you free up stuff more. Things start to get dislodged, and then or things from the subconscious mind start to come up, and then you start to see stuff. You remember stuff. I mean, you're into past lives, so you might see stuff in other worlds that might remind you of different
I never see
lives.
stuff. I
It could
don't
open
see
up
stuff.
though. It
I
could
don't
open
see
up
stuff.
though.
That's the interesting thing. Like I don't have a visual when my eyes close. It's just a knowing.
Oh
Not
snap!
not in a knowing, not in a way like I'm telling you I know the future. I'm saying whatever I'm thinking about, it's
Mm,
not vividly visual like so many people get like they movie screen type thing. I don't get that. I've always
yeah,
wondered why. Too like it's different for different people though they say.
yeah. I personally think it. I mean, I don't want to get into diagnosing, but
Go ahead. I don't mind. I won't take it personal. This is
I
what you
mean,
do.
okay. I mean, again, it's just I think it's has to do with your awareness faculty not strengthened enough to be able to see through stuff. So once you
Okay.
start to develop that sight, you can like. It's a muscle that you develop, and some people are more gifted with it, and so like are more naturally
That
have
makes
it,
sense.
and then some people don't. But like when you rested your attention in the headspace and you feel like you go deeper, you know, I challenge you to even see like how deep you can get, and you might even start to see stuff once you do that. Maybe I'm not saying I don't want to superimpose thoughts and say you're going to see something because that's could be a distraction where you have this anticipation that, oh, I'm going to see something, you know. But that's kind of see what happens when you deepen it, you know. And
So those things that you're saying to do to relax into it, are those things that when you're going into your meditation, you're saying to yourself to get you warmed up, or do you just close your eyes and go straight in now that you've been doing it a while?
depends. I mean, sometimes I'll just not even go through that process. A lot of it is like subconscious, you know, rewiring. So like in my subconscious mind, I have that already memorized, so I can just feel into it and just be like, boom, like it's, you know, have it there. That took a lot of practice to really have it ingrained. You know, like you know, Coach Corey Wayne's like read the book 10 to
Yeah,
15 times. You know, it's kind of like you practice this stuff like, you know, 10 to 15 times, and then you get it in
it's
your mind, and
ingrained.
then it becomes an automatic process where things start to automatically be deepened like that, and then you start to see the world in a much deeper way, and you drop into yourself more. But
Mhm.
uh yeah, it takes practice. I'm not gonna say it's gonna happen. It can't happen overnight. It's not a linear process. Like the way that you deepen like that could all of a sudden you get pulled into something very deep. It could just happen out of nowhere. So it's not necessarily a linear process. It can just happen. You know, it's kind of just you just go with it, go with the flow kind of thing, and see.
Well, this was good today. We got 4 left on deck. We did a totally different live stream. Usually, I'm quite active and talking to everyone, so people came and went, but I really enjoyed it. I appreciate your time. If anyone wants to check out Expanded Minds podcast, you should actually do. I don't know if you do it now. Justin Lopez, I'll ask you. I'll answer your question in a moment. You actually, you don't do like you could do meditation coaching, like transcendental. What do they call it? TD, transcendental meditation. Oh
I
wow,
think
that
so.
was an
Yeah.
immediate bad response.
I was just my body, but no, I'm not really. I wouldn't necessarily go that route. But
But that's a type of meditation, right? That you don't do. Like they have coaches for that. Like they sell that as a practice. So if
yeah,
you down the road, do you want to be like someone that does that? Because like right now, you put me in a deeper state than I usually get.
yeah.
You consider being like a meditation coach in the future? What?
um, no, I just
People
laugh.
that hire
I'm not.
people for that.
Yeah.
Because what
I'm
you're
not.
doing, like to me, beyond the words, Justin Lopez, like I said, I'll be with you in a minute. Anyone that's on here that wants to ask a quick question about breakups, totally fine. Um, to me, part of what you're doing is holding space and intention, right?
Yeah.
Like you're not just saying the words,
Oh no, I've experienced some stuff. Yeah,
huh?
experienced stuff. I've experienced stuff. So yeah, I know.
Does that make sense? Like you're not
Yeah,
just, hey, let me just guide you through this. It's a little deeper.
yeah. Because I
It's a
can
little
really feel a person's like blockages or resistances towards stuff I'm saying.
right. Okay. So
But
for mine, like I said, you got a skill, man. You got a
thank you.
skill, man. I'm not trying to be nice. Like I'm not doing this to like, oh yeah, I wouldn't have you on my channel for an hour or so, and I've talked to you numerous times. I think that just experience that for 15 minutes. Like you should set up where you know sell an hour of your time and do what you just did with me and ease people into it, and then give your assessment unapologetic. You know what I mean? Like when you said that to
Yeah.
me, I was like, really? But at the same time, I'm open to it
Mm.
because I have a rapport with you now, and I don't think you're a phony, right?
Yeah.
All right. So we'll get into the.
Yeah.
You can stay on for a moment if you want to answer this question. Justin Lopez, any advice when she says she just wants to kick it for now, but we kiss, uh, stay over and do a couple of things, but we have. I'm sorry. We had a breakup. Oh, we just lost you. Okay. I'll let you back in. I was thinking to myself, oh, he must have had to go to the bathroom. Um, so sorry, it's hard to get into the breakup coaching after that meditation and that talk. I got to change my cap. Hold on a sec. All right. We had a breakup, no cheating involved. We broke up for a month and a day. Then I went to see her, gave her the mail, and was supposed to go on about my day, but she stopped me from leaving, keeps asking, what are we, since she did have an abortion with our baby on June 14th. I'm sorry to hear that. And talked with me about 6 hours, told me she has feelings and wants to try this, but take it slow to focus on herself mentally and financially. Well, I mean, you're asking me like she asked you a question for you to answer. What do you want me to I'm not going to answer that question for you. Number one, I haven't experienced dealing with a girlfriend having an abortion directly. I haven't experienced that. I have had a girlfriend in the past that had a miscarriage. It's hard, and it's extremely hard on the woman, and they're going to handle that different way. It's not going to just go away. It's going to be hard. I have had a close friend that him and his girlfriend had an abortion, and like a year or 2 years later, when they were better off financially, they had a kid, but it was very hard. And they, like, the first 3 or 4 months, there was a lot of turbulence about that. Hopefully you made that decision together and she doesn't blame you for talking her into it. If she's blaming you for talking her into it and regrets it later on, that can be a big problem. She might need to seek some therapy just to talk about this situation, because I think it's different for the woman than it is for the guy. You definitely have feelings, but it's not the same thing as having that little thing in your body. Do you think this will work if we take slow? I'll just waste my time. I mean, this I would recommend that you book a live coaching session and we talk about it, because this is a heavy topic and we need to talk about more of the stuff about it. I mean, I don't know if it'll work. The fact that she wants to make it work, do you want to make it work? Is number one. Is there problems beyond this abortion? Like, what are the other problems in the relationship besides this? So if it's financials, that's why you don't have a kid. Okay. Why did you break up? Was it because of, you know what I mean? So are the problems going to be fixed, or are you guys going to meet halfway? It definitely sounds like she wants to revisit things and still has feelings for you. You got to meet her halfway on the bridge. You're going to deal with someone that's going to be, over the next few months or year, sensitive because of what's been done. There's regret in that for a lot of people. It's not just cut and dry. The idea that, do you think this will work if we take it slow, or I'll just waste my time? Anytime you're making an effort in a relationship, it is worth your time. Nothing's a waste of your time, because whatever doesn't work out is a lesson. This is someone that you care about, that you want to be with. So there's no guarantees in anything you do except using your calculator. And 2 + 2 is always going to be 4. Those are the things that are out. Everything else is kind of an opinion, right? Okay, thank you. I'm supporting her mentally. She made that decision on her own, but blames me for the abortion. So, okay, I will turn on my notifications so I don't miss a live. Like I said, if you want, go to rightmac.com if you want to book a session. If you don't find it useful and helpful, I'll refund you. I stand by that. I don't mean that like sales pitchy. I'm going to help you. But if she's blaming you for that, that's something you're going to have to sort through together. And you can't just keep saying, like, it's not my fault. It's a delicate thing, right? And it's a different feeling for the woman. And it's hard, man. And you're probably going to have to get some outside help, because this is not something you're trained in or have experience with. It's like Ezekiel from Expanded Minds podcast. He's got a specialization or a special gift with meditation. If I was going to get a meditation coach, I'd go to him. If I'm going to try it on my own, I probably could have some results, but he just did in 15 minutes with just some words and some talk with his experience and stuff, got me way deeper. if you guys are going to make this work, you might want to get a couples therapist, or you might want to get a therapist for each of you. Because just trying on your own, it's difficult, man. This is supposedly I act childish and boy mentality, but I'm stable financially. She is not. Okay, thank you so much. I won't miss anything. Okay, looks like you're trying to close me off before I give you more information. Okay. Bottom line is, when someone, depending on how long you've been together, so if you've been together 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, you get typecasted, right? Typecasted means what? It's like Robert De Niro is not going to do a movie where he plays a soft character. No one would believe it. He's just been a tough guy for too long. If she believes you're childish and boy mentality, the tough part about that is, if every time you act a little bit like a boy, she's going to point it out because she filters for it. But when you're trying to be more mature or those kinds of things, she's not going to notice that, and it's going to piss off you because you're making an effort. You also have to ask yourself, is it true? Am I childish? If you don't agree with that, then what are you working towards? You have to work on a problem, you have to accept it's a problem and be accountable. So if you think you're childish and have a boy mentality and you want to work on that, then this can go somewhere. If you're like, that's totally untrue, it's ridiculous that she says that, you're probably going to have more problems down the road. You see what I'm saying? So, like I said, I hope that helps. If it's just been 3 months, fine, but it's going to be a sensitive thing. It's not going to be a waste of your time either way. So just get that out of here. A lot of people do this. They do this thing where they're like, I would say that you have to check your intentions. What do you want and why? A lot of guys, sometimes when you check their intentions, they'll be honest. They'll be like, actually, I just want to hook up. I'm not saying that's how you feel right now. I just want to get back with her to hook up. It's like, all right, if you want to roll with that and she wants you to have a long relationship, what are you doing here? That child is how I agree with my loss, making jokes and everything. That's just my way of grieving. All right. Well, then book a session with myself or someone else and do that, unwind that and unpack that. When you do things with jokes, and I like to joke, it doesn't land with everyone the same. We just don't all have the same sense of humor, right? Like and people are sensitive these days, right? With words. Like I think when I first talked to Ezekiel today, I'm like, what's up, Holmes? It's like someone like,
that's what we
I
say
don't
around
know.
here, though. That's what we say around here. East LA, you know?
Yeah. But I like to say that anyways. But I'm just saying, like, some jokes don't land with everyone, and you got to accept that, and you got to be mindful of it. There's groups of people that don't like to joke, or there's times when it's not for jokes. And so that could be attributed to being immature. I mean, there's been plenty of times in my life, especially in my 20s, where like, probably said some things that I thought were funny, or that maybe 3 of my friends from high school thought would be funny, but a lot of other people don't. So that's tough. And if you're grieving, then maybe open yourself up to another style of grieving rather than just jokes. That maybe works for, some people, but like maybe you need to get a little deeper and cry about this and get a little bit more on it. She says is ready for a relationship and she wants to do her, but I will book an appointment with you and talk further. I would recommend that. And if for some reason it's expensive for you and you want to make payments, we can do that. All right. The great Ezekiel. We will talk again, hopefully in the future. I don't know if you're being stoic right now or your camera's frozen. Oh, the camera's frozen again. It was really good to have this on today. Let me know in the comments if anyone watches this later on, if you thought it was good and if you want to see more stuff like this. If you don't, it's okay. Anything's with your relationship or breakup issue, let me know. Francois, thanks for coming on both channels. May, I really appreciate you. BW, You're always appreciated. I don't think there's a cult in the future anytime soon, but I get it. Tana Tapon, I hope you're doing well. Thanks for checking in. And J Lo, also known as Justin Lopez. Thanks for coming on, and I'm open to doing a coaching session with yourself, and we can get to the bottom of that. If you guys want to find Ezekiel's channel, Expanded Minds Podcast, but I just realized today you also have
Yeah.
a couple other channels.
Well, I mean, this I don't really post that much on it. I have a clip channel and then I have a third channel. I just have
Cool.
for the third channel, I just posted just something I did, just a little. I was actually meditating with people on Omegle, but that was
On Omega, what's that mean?
it's like a so it's a like a website you go on and you could just meet random strangers.
To
And
meditate
so
with?
no, not to meditate. People, it's you get a mixed amount of people. You have people that are, you know, on there. There's creeps on there. There's people that are
Omega, OMEGO.
yeah. There's like people that just play music, or there's people that you could just talk to. It's like a
Kind
hangout
of,
place.
kind of like
You
an
get to
open Discord.
yeah, like open. It's like an open chat, and you just talk to people, just random people you meet. You just select a country, and then you just meet random people. But it mainly
And
consists of like
so
I don't
you
know.
so you did that, and then you were like, "Does anyone want to meditate with me?"
Yeah, I just asked them straight up like, "Hey, does anyone want to
And then
meditate?"
you
And
said, "I'm
then
going to video this for a YouTube channel."
I told them after, so it's more like a genuine thing. I told them after if I could use it, but you know, yes.
Cool, man. Well, that meditation that you did for me briefly was really good, and I appreciate
Well,
you, bud. And hopefully, we can collaborate in the future.
of
And
course, I
any
enjoyed.
closing thoughts for you?
Oh, and I just appreciate people for watching and staying tuned. Whoever's here, I mean, I wish the best for everybody that's watching, and that's it. Thank you for having me on.
All right, bro. Take care, and we'll be in
All right,
contact. Yeah.
take care. Bye.